Welcome to our Red, White, and You podcast. Tommy Daniels here, and pleased to be joined by the voice of the Charlotte Checkers, TJ Chillot. And what a resume you have. Penn State University, the Memphis River Kings. Well, I guess Mississippi now, but they were Memphis back in the day. Loved those trips to South Haven. The Austin Bruins of the North American Hockey League, and now calling Charlotte home. That's quite a roadmap.
Yeah, I've been all over. I mean, everything kind of got kickstarted in my hometown in Lehigh Valley, where I was working in the AHL as an intern. And then before long, man, I was crisscrossing the country and happy to be in Charlotte and kind of be able to set some roots down, but even happier to just have a decent journey and to have seen all corners of the United States and be able to call hockey games.
You know, the North American Hockey League is an underrated league. And, you know, when I was working for the Texas Tornado, before I came over here, you know, we had some good players, you know, Ben Bishop, you know, the Ludwig brothers. There's a handful of guys that have played, you know, even here locally, that have seen and tasted the National Hockey League. Give me your 2 cents worth on the NAHL.
You know, it's certainly a league that's growing. When I first got there, I wasn't too familiar with junior hockey altogether. I was forced to find a new job after the Mississippi River Kings ended up folding after 1 year for me, anyway, with the team. They were there together for 26 years, and then I come in after 1 year. The team ends up folding up shop. So I was forced to find a job, and I didn't know too much about junior hockey, but look, I just wanted to keep the dream alive, right? So I go up to Austin, Minnesota, and I'm broadcasting games for the NAHL, and I was actually blown away by just the professionalism and just the seriousness of everything. You know, these aren't just some throwaway games and just something for kids to do. They are very serious games. You know, kids are getting committed left and right to Division I schools. It's pretty incredible to see, and you're seeing that across the board. I mean, the coaching is getting better, the players are getting better, the media attention is getting bigger every single year. So it was a really great place for me to kind of really carve out who I am as a broadcaster and kickstart the career. Even though it wasn't my first stop, it was certainly the most impactful on my journey.
Well, you're right. And you know what? Hockey obviously is growing here in the United States, and we're seeing more and more, you know, top players drafted, you know, from the U.S., whether it's from a U.S. college or from one of the USHL or North American Hockey League. We're seeing these guys getting drafted, which is a good thing. To me, and you know, correct me if I'm wrong, I think junior hockey, we're not quite at the level of Canada yet, but getting pretty damn close.
Yeah, we certainly are. When you look at the USHL, I think that's pretty much, you know, that tier one. I think the USHL is just on that level of, you know, Canada Major Junior. Everything under that still needs to grow a little bit. Tier 2, like the NAHL, and of course Tier 3 with the NA3HL, they need to grow just a little bit. But you know, with the USHL, they're right on par with Canada. The NAHL is going to get there soon because, look, the more and more hockey's out there, and the more kids want to play, the more and more there is that need for a demand to have these leagues. It's only going to get better. It's only going to get more competitive, and things are slowly going to rise and level out. Hockey is still one of the sports that not every, you know, it's not as popular as Little League. It's not as popular as Pop Warner football or anything along those lines. So as that becomes more popular, it's just going to force everything to get better and the competition to be that much stronger. So it was a great place for me, and I know it's an even better place for the players that are coming out of the NAHL to be, and really to get those commitments and still go the college route for the kids that want to have that education background rather than just doing the, like in Canadian Major Junior, you know, you go to Major Juniors, maybe you get drafted. If you don't, you just try to sign a deal with an ECHL team or, you know, an SPHL team or something along those lines and maybe make your way up that way. But, you know, having the education as a backdrop is even better. And that's one of the biggest draws to American junior hockey, is the fact that they can still go to college, and many kids choose to do that. They go, they play tier 1, tier 2, and then go to a big name school. You know, if they get that commitment, whether it be in Michigan or, you know, any of the big hockey schools, Minnesota Duluth. And it's just a great thing for those kids to have, because I know my parents always told me, get the education, right? You know, because you never know. Even if you're the greatest athlete in the world, if you're LeBron James coming out of high school and you go to the NBA and you tear your ACL and you have a career-ending injury that rookie year, what do you have? Now, obviously, things worked out differently for him, but get that education. So I think it's really cool the way that they have things set up here in the US, especially in that connection between junior hockey and college.
Get sunshine for the whole squad. The Tropical Smoothie Cafe.
TJ Chillot, the voice of the Charlotte Checkers. You talked about education. Talk about your time at Penn State. Obviously great hockey program there. I know the Pegulas and how involved Terry is with Penn State. Give us about your time at Penn State.
I didn't actually attend Penn State on campus. It was something that I added later on in life. As I was actually working in Austin, Minnesota, I decided that I wanted to go back to school and continue my education because it was something that I didn't finish. I went to a small community college right after high school and was there for 2 years and then jumped right into the professional world. I was actually selling cars for about 10 years back home in my hometown, and ultimately radio just slapped me in the face and said, hey, here's an opportunity. So I took it and I ran with it. And I was up in Austin. I decided, you know what, I'm going to go back to school. So I went primarily to an online, I say primarily, it was completely online. I went to an online a school through Penn State and wanted to kind of just finish things out. So it was definitely unique and different to me. So I haven't had the chance to interact with anyone, at Pegula or see even actually back when I was in college, when I was going to the community college, they weren't even a D1 program yet. They were still known as the Penn State, the Icers, I believe is what they were called. This was back before they officially decided to throw their hat in the ring. So it's something that's on my bucket list. Whenever I get the chance to get back home and I have an extended period of time, I'd love to see a game there because I hear what they've done to Pegula, just the beautiful arena that they have. I want to see it and I want to check it out for myself, but that's obviously a little bit easier said than done because their season runs at the exact same time ours does. So I don't get a lot of time off during the hockey season.
You've called junior hockey, you've called hockey at the SPHL level, and now at the American Hockey League level. Give us the greatest difference, taking a couple steps up from SPHL to the American Hockey League. Talk about the talent that you're seeing on a nightly basis.
Well, I think this is going to be the exact same answer that you would get if you asked a player that same thing, and it's speed. Just keeping up with the speed of these guys. When you talk about the SPHL to the AHL, they're all relatively the same size. You're going to get guys that are going to be above 600. They're all going to be floating around that 180 to 210 mark. They're all about the same size. So while the size comparison is pretty equal there, one thing that you absolutely notice right away is the speed. The American Hockey League game is so fast. It's incredibly fast. And on top of that, I'm not just talking about how fast they are on their skates. I'm talking about how fast they think, how fast they move their hands, how fast they get from one side of the ice to the other, and how many passes are made in between. The intelligence is just through the roof. These guys are so quick thinking with how they pass to themselves off the wall and make these bank passes. It's incredible. And it was a little bit of an adjustment for me. I went backwards. I started in the SPHL and then went to junior hockey and then got my opportunity in the American Hockey League. So for me, I went from, single A pro basically down to junior up to the American Hockey League. So I kept going. I really skipped. A lot of people go the other way. They start in juniors, then get something, in low level pro, then kind of work their way up the ladder that way. So for me, it was a big adjustment to get used to not only the size difference between the junior game and the pro game, but then the speed was 15-fold faster. But it's just a much faster game. And it's clear, you hear a lot of people who are unfamiliar with the game of hockey and they say things along the lines of, I just don't understand the game, or it just doesn't make sense to me. As you watch a lot of hockey, it starts to make sense to you. And when you watch the American Hockey League, you can see these plays develop. You can see the intelligence that it takes to play this game, that it's not all about just being fast and being able to lace up a pair of skates and being able to go hit someone. You have to be able to be a smart guy. You got to have your head up at all times. And it's no more evident in any league than the American Hockey League, at least not that I've come across in my career.
You're working with 2 NHL affiliates this year, obviously Florida and Seattle. How much tougher does that make your job? Not only keeping up with prospects with the Florida Panthers, but also now with Seattle.
It's obviously twice as much work, but for me, I'm very lucky that I've got a great staff around me that handles a lot of that stuff, whether it be our senior vice president and director of player personnel, Derek Wilkinson. He's the one on the phone with Seattle and Florida every single day about who's coming up, who's coming down, and he does a great job keeping us in the loop. Nick Najelski, who works on our social media and also works in our media relations department, he's the one preparing the packets for us and getting everything ready to go for the broadcast and keeping people up to date with who's coming up and who's coming down. And of course, Paul Brannicky, my boss, he's the head of PR for the team. He's the one who's, also working and moving that ship in the right direction. So it's really, I would imagine if I was in a situation like I was in last year in Austin, where I was the only guy, it would be something that's very overwhelming. But here, the duties are split up amongst a bunch of us. So we're doing a good job. It's all about communication. No, it's simply all about communication. Who's coming down, who's going up. And, that email that comes through every now and then that says, okay, here's the situation with what we've got. We just signed this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy to a PTO. This guy's on recall to Florida. That guy's on recall to Seattle. This guy's in COVID protocol. That kind of stuff just makes everything so much easier, because you can lose a lot of stuff in the weeds if you're not keeping track of that. You almost forget, especially with all this movement, you forget that there were guys that played for your organization a couple months ago, and then all of a sudden they come back and you're like, oh yeah, that's right, we haven't seen him in a while. It's a great thing to just have that communication between all the departments, and we get awesome communication coming down from both Seattle and Florida as well. They keep us in the loop and let us know what's going on. And then of course we try to do the same thing down with our ECHL affiliates, whether it be you and Allen or perhaps Mark Shelley in Greenville, who's the ECHL affiliate for the Panthers, just to keep you guys in the loop and let you know, hey, we know that we signed so and so, here's what we'd like to do, what do you think? And it's all about communication, whether it be from the marketing PR side, or if you're talking the hockey ops side, it's all about communication.
Nick's, by the way, he's done a great job. He's been great about keeping in communication with this is going to happen, or just kind of letting me know, keep an eye out for this, and we appreciate that. I try to do the same as well. I've always felt that you've got to keep your affiliates in the loop. You don't just send something out without letting people know. And most of the time it's players being called, loaned or called up, that we have to, keep our fans in tune with. And while we're there, I know our fans will want to know, how is Ryan Lowen been doing since he went back to Charlotte, as well as Luke Henman, who had quite a little run here with Allen.
Those are two guys that have been pressed into action. Traditionally, when we saw them at the first half of the season, they were guys that were just kind of floating around the fourth line, and they were kind of bottom 12 guys and getting in just a couple of shifts every period, maybe a handful of shifts on the game on the whole. But all of a sudden, with the way COVID has impacted everything, now when you talk about all these PTOs that we've signed from Allen, from Greenville, from Jacksonville, from wherever we might have brought them in, the guys that you lean on are guys like Ryan Lowen, are guys like Luke Henman, who have played a bunch of games and at least know the system, know the guys. There's a chemistry built up there, and they've been pressed into action, and they've been doing very well. As a matter of fact, in our game on Sunday against Bridgeport back on the 9th of January, it was Luke Henman who had an amazing shot from the high slot that Scott Wilson ultimately tipped and put it past Corey Schneider, the Islanders goaltender. And that play was all set up by Luke Henman. He was strong into the zone. He got control of the puck, got into the right spot, took the shot. And these are guys that we're going to lean on. We saw actually Ryan Lowen was he was a little injured on Friday night. He took a pretty big hit right in front of the Islanders bench. I don't know if he caught maybe the stanchion that was there or something like that, but had to be escorted off the ice. He was right back at it the next night. And believe me, that was a big sigh of relief that we had, that we could see Lowen back out there the next night, because these are guys that are very important to this team right now. They are the ones that are the glue that's kind of holding everything together while all these other parts are moving around. Guys are going up to Florida and Seattle. Guys are, out because of COVID protocol. And right now, those two guys have been having themselves a very decent season, and they're being leaned on pretty heavily, and they're answering the bell.
Well, I'll tell you what, TJ, it's been fun to kind of keep up with what's going on in Charlotte this year. And, to be real honest, I'd never really paid much attention to Charlotte before, but now I have. Over the past, we've worked with the Iowa Wild and, the San Jose Barracuda over the years. And then the early years back in our Central Hockey League days, we had a relationship with Dallas, briefly. So it's been fun, but this year, no doubt, it's been great working with you guys and keeping up with the Checkers and obviously pulling for you guys, as well as, hoping the Seattle Kraken in their first year, having a little success, not bad, maybe not as good as what Vegas did when they entered the NHL not that long ago, but no doubt there's a lot of excitement going on in Seattle.
Yeah, I mean, we're pumped, we're kind of a little sad that it's only going to be a 1-year deal as Coachella Valley comes into the league here in the American League next year, and that ultimately becomes your new AHL affiliate. We're a little bummed about that, but it's been a great experience with Allen, and, we're getting some quality players that are making an impact on the ice for us, and that's all we can ask about. I mean, that's what you rely on your affiliations for, right? It's just to get those quality players that can make an impact, and so far it's been phenomenal with Allen and Charlotte. It's been great with Greenville as well, but we're a little bummed that it's only going to be a 1-year affiliation, but we'll certainly be keeping an eye on you guys, over the course of the next few years.
Below Zero Cryo, whole body cryotherapy stimulates the body's natural healing abilities through exposure to extreme cold. Cryotherapy was developed in Japan in 1978 as a treatment for rheumatoid arthritis. Over the past 3 decades, it's become even more popular as its performance-enhancing and general health and wellness benefits have become more well-known. Call Below Zero Cryo for an appointment today. 469-362-8191. Below Zero Cryo is located at 8715 Lebanon Road, Suite 400 in Frisco.
Just as we get ready to close here, give me your favorite buildings to call a game from. What are some of the great venues around the American Hockey League?
Oh, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm a list taker, and I'm still a little shocked that this is what I get to do for a career. And I actually take down notes about my favorite places to broadcast. I will take the Bojangles Coliseum out of it because I feel like that's a cop-out answer. It should be your favorite place to broadcast is your home arena. So for me, that is absolutely number one. It should be. So I have to take that out. Secondarily to that, my second favorite place to broadcast a game. Now, if you ask any other broadcaster in the American League, it's near the bottom because of the view. But for me, there's a personal attachment. The PPL Center in Allentown, Pennsylvania. That's my hometown. That was the rink that I grew up going to. And I say grow up, I was in my 20s by the time they built it. But that was the league or that was the rink where, as I was beginning my radio career, I was an intern for the team. I was walking around those halls. I used to live right across the street from the arena. So getting the chance to go back there to my hometown, seeing some friends, seeing some family at games, that's always fun. And it's a beautiful arena. It's brand new. The view is in the corner. So that's what a lot of broadcasters will say they're not a big fan of. You're kind of in the corner. So angles aren't the greatest. And I'll admit, no, they're not the greatest. If you're the home broadcaster, Bob Rotruck, the voice of the Phantoms, he's right smack dab at the center red line. But as the visiting broadcaster, you're kind of down in the corner. That's my second favorite place just because it's home for me. If I took all my personal feelings out of it, I'd have to say the Giant Center in Hershey is my 110% favorite. Number one, they have an elevator, so I don't have to lug my equipment up 50 flights of stairs like I have to do at some places. Number two, the view is dead center ice. You're at a great level. You're not too high like where we are right now in Hartford. We have a game on Wednesday. I'm going to be a mile high outside of that arena at the XL Center. You're not too high. You're not too low like you might be up in Wilkes-Barre where you're actually concourse level and people are walking literally right by you to go to their seats. So my favorite place, if I took out all of my personal connections, my favorite place would be Hershey.
That's awesome. Yeah. You know what? I've been to a couple buildings in the American Hockey League. I've been to Toronto. I've been to a Marlies game. Obviously, growing up in Buffalo, I went to games in Rochester as well. That's a good venue, older venue, but not a bad place to go. But I've also been to, if you've been to California, I don't know if you have been out there yet, but Ontario's got a beautiful building.
No, I haven't had the chance to get out to California for a game just yet. And I actually haven't been to Rochester just yet. We're scheduled to play them later on this year up there in New York. So we'll see if, how COVID changes some things, but hopefully we get the opportunity to get up there and play some games. I haven't been up there to play some games either, but I love going around the league. I was really bummed when our New Year's Eve and New Year's Day games against the Texas Stars were postponed. We are going to make those up in March, so that made me feel a little bit better about it. But I was really looking forward to heading just outside of Austin, Texas, and getting to broadcast a game there in Cedar Park, and that would have been another new arena for me to put on the list and see where it ranked. But that kind of bummed me out. I'm looking forward to seeing some of these new places. It's one of my favorite things to do. I love going around and seeing the different towns, and we've gotten our fill right now where I'm sitting in a hotel room in Connecticut. I've gotten my fill of the Northeast. I want to see some stuff that's a little bit outside of that. We got Cleveland coming up. We have that Texas game coming up. I'd love to get out to California. Nothing on the schedule just yet, but you never know how playoffs might shake out or things along those lines. So I love getting out and seeing the different towns and the different ranks. It's definitely one of the things that I don't ignore as being one of the blessings of this job. That's for sure.
Well, you know what? It was a pleasure having you on. We'll have to check out and see when the dates are in Austin, if possible. Maybe might make that 3-hour drive to come watch the Checkers play and to meet you in person. But TJ, thanks for giving us some time here this afternoon. Appreciate it. I love your stories about the buildings, and I'm glad you're a note taker and a list maker, because I am too. I've collected a puck from every building I've ever broadcasted in, and obviously the first game, and I put the date on it. So I've got quite a collection of pucks over the 13 years here. Some of those buildings aren't around anymore, so yeah, they do mean a lot. And best of luck to you and the Checkers down the road.
Well, Tommy, thanks so much, and we'll let you know. I think it's March 8th and 9th. We're going to be in taking on the Texas Stars in Cedar Park. So come on up if you got the opportunity to come up and see us. We'd love to have you. And thanks for having me on the pod. I'm sure we'll talk again throughout the rest of the year.
Absolutely. The great TJ Chillot, formerly in Austin, not Austin, Texas, Austin way up north. Also one of the great places in hockey, South Haven. Had a lot of fun times there. And of course, here we go with the Red, White, and You podcast, brought to you by Ellen's every Friday here on the American Social Media Channel.
Hello, Americans fans. Former American defenseman Nolan Dakota here with a message from Fast Signs in Plano. Both Plano locations are independently owned and operated by myself and are proud partners with the Americans for this season and the Americans Drive for Five. At Fast Signs, we understand the burden this difficult time presents on businesses, and helping you to solve your changing visual communication and business challenges is our commitment. Mention this ad when you call Fast Signs in Plano for 10% off your next order. Fast Signs, more than fast, more than signs.